good afternoon, evening, weekend, or late night, whenever you're listening to Made by a Human.
Or is it?
This week, Henry and I have a number of interesting topics to discuss, some of which might be interesting to somebody other than Henry and I, but at least Henry and I are happy with them and we're enjoying the conversation. The first conversation we're going to talk about is a market that both of us have been considering, evaluating, talking about, and worrying about, and that is the area of small to medium businesses. Now, we can argue, right, because every single company on earth argues what a. So, what we've kind of put a number out there to say companies making less than $50 million a year, we consider medium or small. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Henry to kind of kick this first segment off.
Yeah, so what I've been thinking about AI, we all look at Game of Thrones that's going out there, everybody talking about Altman and so on. But really, what we've noticed with talking to customers is that some of the smaller folks that don't have the resources of a major bank or a insurance company, how do they deal with all the things that are going on? Because they want to take advantage of all these things. So if you think about it, they don't have the right resources, they don't have the right technology sometimes. Their data could be distributed all over the place. So for those folks, what do they do? What are some of the processes they need to think about with regard to really adopting AI? More importantly, knowing that AI is constantly advancing in such an exponential race, how do they kind of future-proof themselves without, investing a lot? And how do they do the security and all that stuff? Because it's kind of crazy, because not only we're dealing with technology or deployment and knowledge and AI, but also the employees who are sometimes so set in their ways that just don't even want to even talk about AI. They don't even know how to spell it. And Scott, you can probably think about some processes which are fairly easy to think about and how a smaller company, 50 million is not pocket change here, but smaller company can kind of take advantage of to really propel their AI initiatives.
It's an interesting problem, right? When we talk about a medium company, they don't necessarily have access to the high priced, right? The big boys of consulting. They don't have access to those high price resources, right?
I
Now,
think there
a
should be a
company in
TV show, The Big Boys of Consulting, starting Will
there you
Smith
go.
or something. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, oh no, we should get Will. We should definitely get Will Smith to star in that. I think he'd do a
You,
great job.
you think you like smack a few people while talking about AI and eating spaghetti?
I think
I don't
I think it's too soon for that. This
know.
time.
Okay, sorry, you were talking
So
about the
no, no,
folks. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, the concept, right? The thing that we want to start thinking about is this thing of, and first of all, when you get above a certain point, right, 35, 40, 50 million, you start having your own dedicated IT team. You start, building off of that. But you still need guidance. You still need help. You still need somebody to show you the ropes. And the problem, and I think you said it really well, I think the problem that these smaller companies are struggling with is the fact that if we think about it, let's throw a quick timeline out, right? 2017, what happened? Well, ChatGPT, the original was released 2017. That's 7 years ago. And
I think
people
there
are,
was some guy in the back and the box opened up when this little creepy Sam Altman came out, and that's how it was released. But go ahead. So in the back room somewhere at IBM. No, it's not maybe Google. But go ahead. So 20
2017, we have
slithering.
this we have this initial
Yeah.
Jack in the Box pop
Yeah.
out, Chat GPT. Now that's cool, right? That's the first thing. But think about it, if we look at the internet, right? The internet starts in the 1960s, and it doesn't really become prevalent for most people until like 1991 or 92. So there's like 30 years between, hey, there's a cool way to connect computers together and let's actually do it. So this is 7 years. The first thing, but think about it. If we look at the internet, right? The internet starts in the 1960s, and it doesn't really become prevalent for most people until like 1991 or 92. So there's like 30 years between, hey, there's a cool way to connect computers together, and let's actually do it. So this is 7 years from, hey, we can talk to computers and they'll talk back. They sometimes will say crazy stuff, but they'll sometimes say the answer, to now suddenly people are talking about this concept of advanced general intelligence, an intelligence equal to or in excess of a human being.
Well,
That's
with all due
7 years.
respect, they still say crazy stuff and sometimes don't know the
Uh,
answer, like putting glue on pizza. But but go ahead.
this is my point. And
Yeah.
all the comments we keep getting, Henry, is Henry a chatbot? I mean, that's how good the technology's go that people can't tell, are you real or are you a chatbot?
But that was
That's
even
the problem.
before AI, but that's a
Was
different
that?
discussion.
Oh well, uh,
Okay.
I didn't know that. That part I
Okay.
didn't know. But
My God. So I was Max Headroom. So if you remember him,
oh,
the
I love
original
Mac.
the original chatbot, if you think about it, right? So but go ahead.
Oh, so
Go go ahead. Sorry.
your turn. No, please,
No, no, no. To your point, right? I mean, how do you know what's real, what's not? And things are progressing fairly quickly. One of the things I think about SMB, and we were talking about one of the key things there is really data. And if you think about data, we're not really talking about some CRM system, which obviously they may have or they may not, but just your PowerPoints and your PDFs and your Excel spreadsheets, and how do you actually leverage all that within your marketing environment or just everything else that you're doing? You may have like if you're lucky, you have an organized SharePoint site or your team's stuff is fairly organized to be able to kind of do that. But is it really enough? How do you access that information? And I think you had something, you actually put out some kind of a framework on that, where they try to understand how do you really look at your own internal data before you do anything. Here's my problem. I see this all the time. What happens when AI kind of rolls into a company, or used to, as you know, when Sam Altman slithered out of his little box outside in the back of Google. Sorry, Sam, don't hurt me, but it's a joke. But it was everybody says, oh, let me ask a question in the chatbot. And usually a question is something like whatever. They may attach a few Word documents or PDFs and try to ask against that. It kind of doesn't really work, and they get disenchanted. What they don't realize, it's really still the same process. I think Microsoft used to call it a solution alignment workshop, where you kind of figure out what you're trying to accomplish. And data is really, as you know, is critical. So Scott, back to you. What would you recommend that customers do with regard to really start aligning themselves into a really great AI initiative in the SMB space?
and I think this actually applies to all companies. I think the problem is going to be if we're not in the S&B space and we're in that, the enterprise space, there's just a lot more data. And the first thing is to get your data organized. Because no matter how smart your AI is, it can't replace somebody's knowledge of what really works and what doesn't really work. You need to have that in place.
Hold on, did you just say somebody's knowledge as opposed to just data? So is that really what we're trying to capture, right? Is connect the data to the that role, that person. Go
Well,
ahead.
you got two kinds of knowledge, right? You
Yeah.
have what is called tacit knowledge, and that is knowledge in your head, and then you have explicit knowledge, that is knowledge you've written down. And the joke always, right, is you go to Bob's computers, right, and you need to make a copy of something, right? So you say to Bob, I need to make a copy, but the copier's not working. And Bob turns around and says, well, just a second. Hey, Jim, the copier's not working again. Out from the back comes Jim, and Jim kicks the copier in the exact location it has to be kicked in order to make a copy. You put the sheet on, you make a copy. That's tacit knowledge, right? Bob knows, without having it explicitly written down, that Jim knows how to fix the copier, and Jim knows where to kick it. And the
What, what,
kicking part is the most important.
what's a copier? I'm sorry, God.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay. I wouldn't expect a chatbot to know what a copier was.
Yeah.
So the reality is, right? You got tacit, you got explicit knowledge. The important thing for organizations is get that together, get it in one place, and start to manage it. Understand known good versus known bad.
And
Do
how would
you?
you do that? I'm not trying to be self-serving, but that's why you would call guys like us who know how to deal with that kind of stuff in a
Oh
way.
yeah, you
But
call guys like that. Absolutely. And well, that's something.
shameless plug, but no, but go
Shameless
ahead.
plug, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we didn't introduce our sponsor, and we'll talk about our sponsor
yeah.
in the
Oh,
break between segment one,
I
segment
can't really
two.
notice it behind you, but okay.
Yeah. What is there something behind me? What did you put behind me? Holy, how did you do
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Henry, how did you? All right,
Uh,
stop
no.
hacking my computer.
Well, God forbid, I don't want to see what's on your computer. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, well,
here's the thing. So, we are talking about data, but I think the other thing to think about really, well, I mentioned this before. I want to mention it again, but the goal really, obviously, you got to get the right type of domain-specific data. You need to understand the workflow behind it and the people behind it, because you are connecting to these people who may be doubters and people who are really not in the loop. One thing we also recommend is to have, even as you're going through this process, maybe have an enablement session for your people on a very high level. You know, what I mean, I'm trying to be simplistic here, but I'm kind of not. You know, what is ChatGPT? You know, what's the history of AI? Why is it important? Because a lot of them, as you know, are maybe even worried about their jobs, and I think in SMB space it may be even more prevalent, or they may be, pushing back subconsciously against the deployment of this because it kind of ruins their, perfect universe that they've lived for in the 10, 15 years. So it's kind of important to kind of understand not only the data behind it, but really how you can help your employees succeed. I'll give you an example. We worked with an SMB customer, and I asked the guy in charge, what do you want to achieve from AI? And he, without missing a beat, said, I want to make my employees happier, which is weird to say, right? A lot of people say, I want to be productive, I want to make money, I want to do that. He knows in a smaller company, happy employees, cohesive employees really make the whole engine work a lot better as opposed to, like, 100,000 employee type of company. So there is a
yeah.
different dynamic. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I just let me bring it up. Bring up. So the concept of training, something I've spent a lot of time on in my life.
Why is that?
Uh,
Where did
right?
you?
Because I used to be a teacher once upon a time. Um, let's see if I what did I okay, there it is. Sorry, I didn't actually have it open. Let me do
Did you just
training.
teach like swimming lessons or something? I don't know what you
Yeah.
did, but
I
okay.
actually taught swimming lessons by throwing children into a lake.
Oh,
Um,
nice. But go ahead.
yeah. Hey, you learn to
I'll cut
swim faster.
I'll cut that one out. But go
Oh,
ahead.
okay, you should. Yeah, that's a bad joke. No, so
No, good.
to your point, right? Introduction to AI, understanding what is it? How does it work? What does it mean? Better to know it now than it is later. Real world applications. What do you need to do, right? When people start talking about this multimodal, right? Which, generative AI produced multimodal, and multimodal just sounds like a really bad singer from the 80s, right? And now another hit from multimodal. Um,
That's funny.
yeah, it's
But
just
but but let's talk about multimodal for a second. Most people, believe it or not, may not even know what that means, right? Physically, kind of,
sure.
you know. Actually, Scott, why don't you give a quick definition, and I want to kind of dive into that a little bit more,
Yeah.
why that's important. Go ahead.
Well, the way I like to look at multimodal is the gateway drug for AI. Which I know I shouldn't say that. That's a horrible thing to say, but it's true. Multimodal means that you can input voice, you can input text, you can input video, you can input pictures into the system, and the system can output voice, text, pictures, and video. So if
And
you think about
yeah,
all of that, right, it creates this environment now where the AI system can take any form of input, just like a human being, and produce an output.
So, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about that. And I remember you and I are old enough to remember the days when PCs became multimodal, when you put in the sound card, when you put in a different type of video card, or when you put different types of processors, you a pen to write with. Where I'm going with this is that that's happening again. So the thing
Yep.
is, we're living through this stage right now where things are being built on top of LLMs, on top of AI. For example, NVIDIA just a few days ago announced their AI in the box. What does it really mean? Obviously, they're trying to simplify it for simpletons like us. But really, what they're trying to say is we're going to put in LLM in there. We're going to put in voice. We're going to put in uh, video. Video meaning they can actually see what you're doing. And you're going to put it in the way where all you got to do is just deploy it. And it's just going to work. And you can connect it to your applications. You can connect it to maybe a technology that you're building. And where I'm going with this is it's moving really fast. So from your perspective as a small to medium sized business, is to be able to understand these concepts and to be able to really kind of understand that really everything that you rides on, or everything that they're building, it rides on your data. And look, obviously we do domino stuff, but and look, both Scott and I come from domino migration backgrounds. It was applications, it was data, it was attachments. You move to SharePoint, you do all kinds of stuff. But to me, it's kind of like priceless knowledge, as Scott put it, which is absolutely the case. And how do you leverage, with NVIDIA's AI in the box? Or Microsoft just came out with NPU, keep me honest here, and in their particular line of desktops, because it's all kind of connected, right? So to us, Domino is just another data source like your Excel spreadsheets or your SharePoint or your Microsoft Access files. Remember that? You probably have them somewhere. Now, the only thing, and I know I'm kind of pontificating, but here, the only thing you need to think about, you may want to ask, well, that's old crap. Why do I need it? Why do you have stuff in your garage? Why do you have stuff in your basement or your attic, right? Is because you know you may need it sometimes. You don't know how or when will you need it, but you will need it, right? And that's really critical because AI gives you that freedom to leverage what you really try to accomplish. So what do we really do in a sense that it's not only about your data, we give you real great insights how you can leverage, and we may not know everything, but we know the processes how to do it. And that all it absolutely comes, starts with not only understanding your data, but also the education behind it, so you can go forward. Scott, did you want to comment on
No,
any of
I
this stuff?
think that's perfect. I think we should take that and switch now to segment two. And first of all, because we've not mentioned it directly, but we should mention our sponsor, Binary Advisors, with an E. So when you
Yeah.
spell advisors and you're looking us up, we have an E, not an O. But Binary Advisors is sponsoring our podcast and helping us, bring this to you. So you can either, you can leave nasty comments about Henry and I, but if you want to go after somebody, it's Binary
Yeah,
Advisors fault.
those SOBs, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
we
But
love
anyway,
them.
yeah.
So
Segment two, talking about what's in the news right now. And you started off, you actually talked about,
yeah,
the new Copilot PCs with the integrated NPUs. Apple's got NPUs. Dell jumped on the Copilot PC. HP jumped on that Copilot PC. Um, they're releasing these initial Copilot PCs. I'm a little disappointed because they don't have a 5G one. Nobody's got a 5G connected PC with a built-in NPU to start, which kind of ticks me off. Because if it really is an AI machine, it needs to be available everywhere, not,
but
next to a
that
Wi-Fi hotspot.
doesn't really because the way they're trying to protect themselves by saying, "Hey, we're going to give you embedded tiny LLM that can do disconnected use." That's their way of kind of excusing because it's a lot easier to, run a whatever Phi 3 or Pi 3, whatever Microsoft calls it, or a Mistral locally, right, to be able to do a lot of these different things, which I think both are needed, frankly. I mean, to your point, you know what? You're right. I'm wrong. You know why I'm wrong? Because if you're dealing, well, and I don't say that very often, so forget what you just saw, people. I'm always right, even when I'm
It's
wrong.
not on tape. It's not on
Uh,
tape. Yeah.
okay, I just hope my wife's not listening. But anyway, where I'm going with that is, when you're dealing multimodal, you're dealing with bandwidth, and you're dealing, soon you're going to be dealing with universes and so on, and you really do need that connectivity, reliable connectivity, to truly do what you got to do. Otherwise, it's just going to be a big expensive box with a GPU or whatever they're going to call it next. So you tell me, Scott, what do you think?
No, I think I think you're heading down the right path, right? The one cool thing about this new Copilot PC is the concept of an assistant. And an assistant needs to know everything about you. And so it needs to always be on. And if it can't be connected, then it's going to be a little bit less functional than, probably. And I saw on the Microsoft site, they're talking later in 2024, they'll have 5G iterations of it. Look, I mean, a 5G chipset, you're looking at something that size. I mean, it's, you can't see my fingers, but, it's tiny. Oh, there they are. Okay. Now you can see my fingers. It's small. It's a tiny addition to the back of the laptop, or embedded right next to the Wi-Fi chip. All you need to do is run an antenna. Basically, what you do is you run a Wi-Fi antenna around the outside of your PC, the PC body, and you basically just solder the beginnings of it into the corners, and then you have an antenna for Wi-Fi and cellular. But if it's always connected, then the power of that local AI becomes even bigger, because
Oh
when the
my
local
God.
AI can't handle it, it throws it out to the big brother and says, "Big brother, help! I don't know what to do."
Oh
I
my
use
God, I
that
just thought of something.
phone analogy.
No, no, you just gave me. Oh man, I was gonna ask you a different question, but I have a question to ask you. But you know what? I'm still
Uh-oh.
gonna keep my question, but I'm gonna ask you this one right now, which is thought about. There is one place in the family where an appliance is constantly connected, most of the time, 5G, and that's a car, right? If you think
Yep.
about it, a lot of them have that. So how would a car be? Oh my God. So if it can be truly retrofitted with a powerful AI in the car very quickly to be able to do all kinds of stuff and to be able to communicate. That's an interesting approach. I don't know. Somebody thought about that, because it is a driving
I,
computer, 100, 5G connected driving computer, right? I mean, it is what it is. So,
that in theory, that's what Tesla, Ford, GM, that so when you use the new driverless or hands-free
what,
systems,
what's a Ford? Oh, okay. No, I'm
that's
kidding.
cool.
But no, I'm kidding. But go ahead.
For those of us that drive sports cars, we like Ford Mustangs. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's
Um,
why that was a silent little dig,
I
but okay,
got it. I got
go
it was
ahead.
a dig. It
Okay.
hurt. Almost turned around and said "et tu, Henry," but I didn't.
Well, you
Uh,
know that Ford stands for found on road dead, right? So
yeah.
go
Uh-huh.
ahead.
Yeah.
So
And,
go
and
ahead.
Tesla sounds like
Oh,
essentially a roof, a
no,
roof that generates solar power.
no.
Yeah, yeah,
Th-
yeah.
That's what sounds like a male body part, but I'm not gonna go there. But go ahead.
Oh,
So
those are
we're
whatever.
we're
No, but
yeah.
all those cars have that computer in them today. No, they're not as powerful as the Copilot PCs, but I think at some point in the future, and actually, 10, 11 years ago, my boss at the time at Lockheed Martin said, I think the future is going to be your cell phone. And I think you're going to take your cell phone with you everywhere. And when you need more, you're going to plug your cell phone in, right? So I think the car is an example of that. I think your desktop will become an example of that. You won't actually have anything but your cell phone. All the security for you will be on the cell phone. And then you slide it into a slot, the machine sucks it in, and boom, your cell phone is visible on a big screen. Or you put it in your car, you slide it in, right? And your car now comes to life with all the features and functions that the cell phone can offer
You
it.
know what? I do like because you really don't need to slide anything in physically, but I think you need to for security reasons, right? So there'll probably be a
Yeah,
security mechanism to physically do
that's the
that,
easy.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the Copilot news. That's a good one. So, and you also brought up another news article that I also thought was incredibly interesting. Is NVIDIA talked about their new product, this AI in a box. So what do you think about that? Where do you think that fits in the market today and maybe a year from now?
So I'm going to give you a slightly different answer on that. I'm going to kind of think about it from a different perspective, more of a discussion point. To me, it seems like they're fighting over the new OS that's going to be on top of the AI technology and how they want to control the entire stack. NVIDIA's going down the whole path of, okay, we got the chips happening, and then on top of that, we're going to give you the ability to train your factory robots because we're going to recreate the entire universe. They're coming out with something called Earth 2, which allows you, they mimic the entire Earth so they can literally reliably predict the weather patterns because God knows your weather forecasts are 100%, aren't they, Scott? Especially nowadays, right? And
Mine
that
are.
right. But what are they really doing, right? I mean, the weather part's kind of interesting because I'm actually thinking when IBM bought with Watson weather.com and everybody thought they're going to be able to predict the weather. Now they're actually, which was a crock, but now you can do it. But my whole point about it is I think it's great. I just think it's find it kind of dangerous by having a company like NVIDIA control everything. But then again, what is Microsoft or OpenAI or whatever? So there's a battle going on, and you can kind of see it, right? With Microsoft coming out with the Copilot stuff for the what do you call it? For the hardware and with the NPUs, NVIDIA doing AI in a box, as we like to call it. But I think it's cool. I think it's a new layer because if you go back to my discussion about the sound card and then so on, we don't worry about these things anymore, right? I remember people complaining to Bill Gates, "Well, you're going to take away our TCP/IP stack and include it in Windows 95 or something?" Yes, But if you think about Windows 95 from Win 3.1.1, God, I'm freaking old. But my whole point is, that's what's happening at this stage. Which going back to the SMB space, I think it's great because it allows you to take advantage of things that are going to happen very, very quickly, make your life easier. But at the end of the day, you still need to be ahead. If you want to be the rest of the lemmings that, wait for something to come out and use it, then you're not going to have that advantage. You have this real chance in your life right now to really, uh, uh, frog jump. What's that? Leap over the big boys. And you've seen it happen before with Facebook, with Uber, and so on. And a lot of the guys are in the dust. It's saying it's going to happen again. So from your perspective, and as an SMB player, you have an advantage. You have incredible technologies moving forward, and what you really need is that vision to be able to understand um, what can you do now that can be then leveraged in the future, and what do you do with your data? And don't please, I kind of obsess about it. I blog about it. I LinkedIn about it. Is if your data is so critical, if you think that it's useless to you, then I'm sorry to be so direct, then you are at massive risk. Not a, That's all I can say at this particular stage. So I'm kind of happy what NVIDIA is doing. They're pushing the envelope and making everybody go forward to make AI easier for us humans. Or is it? Ah, sorry, we're done.
All right. So the other news articles that were
Yeah.
interesting. What another one from Microsoft? They're after years of languishing as something they included with Windows for free. They're adding AI to Paint. So MS Paint, which if you remember MS Paint, I mean, there was a time when you used Paint to convert BMP to JPEG because it was the only good, reliable reader, and it's not anymore, right? I can take a BMP into Photoshop. I don't care. Um, but it's interesting. So what do you think? What do you think about AI being embedded in both Designer, their online product, and now into MS Paint, which will be part of Windows 11 for free?
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit of an SOB here. Um,
You never
why?
are. That I'm shocked. Don't.
Thank you. Call me Max Headroom. Anyway, but uh, the why has it taken so long for Microsoft to update Paint? Even, before AI, right? We look at this thing going, why aren't they doing anything to it? You know why? Because they didn't have to. So now all of a sudden they got a fire underneath their butts. They're seeing true competition happening from places they never even envisioned, right? And look what's going on with
Oh,
Google right now. So, and what I mean by that is, so do I think it's a great idea? Yeah, but who really cares? Like with what's going on with Adobe and so on. It's nice. Is it? But okay, here's what I'm going to say about it. Not that it should be great. We are going to that particular place where that kind of AI enablement is going to be everywhere. It's going to be like, I remember the time when the cell phone was something incredible, and now it's kind of like whatever, everybody's got one. That's going to be so that level of AI is going to be, that field is going to be equal across the board. Everything's going to have a little AI assistant. Everything's going to tell you a little bit more, and it's going to be so natural to you that you're not even going to notice it. The question that I'm more interested in is, so to answer your question, I think it's cool, but and kudos for Microsoft for being reactive. And it's amazing what happens when your stock suddenly does a hockey stick, right? You start doing crap. Um, and I like their vision. We'll see what happens. I hope they can do something similar in security side, or 365 management, or Teams management. We'll see where it all goes, right? So, does that answer?
Yeah,
Was that a question? Was that a
yeah.
question for me, or is
That
that
was
more
not.
like, okay?
That's not your question. That was just coming out of the news.
Man,
But
I thought it was, I thought I had an easy one. I thought I had a softball.
no, no,
So,
you're not. No, but
uh,
I did want to point something out. So if everyone will look at my background, Henry created that in about 30 seconds. So Henry,
I
and I've
idea
known
ideogram.ai, ideo with an O,
IDEO, IDEO
ID,
grant. Yeah,
ideogram.
IDEO.
Incredible,
IDEO.
incredible. Of course, like every other provider, they're getting sued right now, but
Yeah, but
it
the
goes
point
on.
is, you went in very
Yeah,
quickly and created it. I could have done the same thing, but it would not have been as effective because I just don't have that visual art view. I look at the world as a collection of words strung together. So I just wanted to soften a little bit your statement on Microsoft Paint. Remind people just
yeah,
to help those of us that aren't good at it.
let me just share something with you guys on that quickly, because I actually want to show you this. Now, I'm going to take 10 seconds, but you saw my prompt here. Binary advisors watch hazy wording in white with white hazy background. And that's kind of like I used it, one of these came out. But what I really like is the magic prompt. What it really gives me is how would it really be a great prompt. And the reason that's actually interesting to me is everybody thinks I need top, you see this all the time, top 10 prompts to do this or 20 prompts to do this. AI is going to give you the prompts so that you need, and so you don't need to worry about coming out with, stuff. And that to me also kind of excites me for allowing people to kind of leverage AI to do this. And by the way, one thing, Scott, you talked about, which I really loved, is if you want to mention it, how AI is going to be fighting with, not fighting, but working with AI to validate things based on a process. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about it. You mentioned it once. It was really, really interesting what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
I think that was an offline conversation that you and I had. But yeah, we were talking about, the
Yeah,
concept of AI, basically fact checking AI. So
right.
one AI goes out and finds an idea, shares it with the second AI, and the second AI says, okay, if you're not going to share, don't bring up crazy stuff like this, right? You're outside the realm here. You've gone over the dale and well beyond the hollow, right? So it's kind of a good way organizations, small to medium business in particular, will be able to set up a system that the AI can fact check itself. The AI can also do, but then the beauty of that is you can create an RFP response or you can create a customer document, throw it to the AI, and the AI will fight it out, clean it up, and would you get out the other end?
And
A
learn
better.
from its mistakes and learn
Oh,
from, and have
absolutely.
the human in the middle. That's a different podcast, but agentic workflows, role-based AIs is also going to be the future. Right now, we kind of live in this generalized world where AI can tell you everything, but that's going to be where it's all heading, especially in the SMB space too, where I believe SaaS, as we know it, is going away. It's really, there's a name for it. It's not software as a service, it's service as a software approach where you can get an accountant or you can get something, and it's going to be AI and it's going to actually do something for you. And to me, that's
It,
incredible what's
it's
going to happen. So
it's the interesting reality of the world. Many years ago, a bunch of architects were running around talking about services-oriented architecture,
that's
or
right.
SOA, and
That was a
SOA
big
went
word
away.
at the time. That's right.
Right,
Yeah.
and it went away. But the reality is, just like Clippy, because people always said, "I hate Clippy," and they did hate Clippy, but Clippy became the assistant in Word. You just didn't see Clippy anymore. Well, the same thing with SOA. SOA kind of went away, but now it's coming back in this cloud AI world where now services, right? So think about it. You want to start a small business, you can literally go grab an AP, an AR, an invoicing system on the web. And you know what? This month you're using, I don't know, look, I'll make up three company names: company A, company B, company C. You're using that. Next month you're using company Z, company W, and company Y.
And you wouldn't even care because
You
it's
don't
just
care.
because your
Yeah,
personalized company LLM is going to take care of it for you, you know?
it's
So
going to take care of everything.
you
And
remember, are you old enough to remember Ada? If you remember, it's
Ada
ADA.
Lovelace?
Oh God, no. Okay, different discussion because we're running a little late. We gotta get to the next segment to move forward. So go ahead, Scott, start it
Oh,
off.
so segment three, which is a question. Now, the rules of this, so the audience knows, Henry doesn't know what I'm going to ask him, and I don't know what he's going to ask me. It's a question that we both think of, and then ask the other, and you have to answer it. You can't dance around and finesse, because Henry and I are both good at dancing around and finessing. So, Henry, I asked first last time. You get to ask
Oh,
first this
geez. And so I'm kind of drawing a blank right now, but I'm gonna actually then just pull it out of my head and kind of ask something really, really interesting of you. It's obviously going to be a futuristic approach, and really based on what you're feeling right now, from your perspective, what is one of the key impediments in the next 12 months from your perspective are really getting great AI adoption in the industry? What is the biggest bump that you feel that is kind of seriously a risk with regard to people truly enabling, experiencing the positivity of AI?
Well, I think AI is in that phase, right? If we remember the old project curve from years ago,
Yeah,
right? The project we start out with enthusiasm. AI is going
right.
to
The
change the
hype.
world,
Yeah.
right? Your
Oh, that was
teeth
my
are going to be
question
white.
actually. Is the hype justified like it was for .com? You know, that's where I was going with that. So,
Exactly. And .com, we found out in 2000, hype wasn't justified. With AI, I think we're going to find out in the next couple of years. Not only was hype justified, but I think the hype was actually not hyped enough. But right
underhyped, yeah.
now, we're on the other side of hype. We're in the pit of despair, and people are terrified. They're scared that AI is going to take their job. And to a degree, they're absolutely right. And what I always tell people when they say to me, "Oh, AI is going to take my job," I always say the following three things, right? The first thing is it going to take all your job or part of your job? And they usually will come back and say, "Well, it's going to take part of my job." Okay. Do you want to do that part of your job? And
Right.
9 out of 10 times, the person says, "No, I don't like that part." So if AI automates the part you don't like out of your job, are you going to be more productive? Yeah. Are you going to
So,
be better off? Yeah. You're more
so
valuable?
that's
No.
the shameless plug again. That's part of our AI enablement is to have that kind of assessment to really understand what part of your job do you truly hate, and why do you want to keep doing it? You know, and
Well,
so
let us help you. Let us get rid of it. Let us make it better, right? Let us rebuild you. Let us make you better. Um,
let
let
us
us make
rebuild you
you
a
the $6 million Henry. There you go. I don't
oh,
know. If you're,
don't Ryan
it's
Gosling and
Henry
that
Henry.
I, I was
Henry
I was
Henry.
I was
Max's
thinking
little brother.
I was thinking Cold Seavers. I was thinking the Fall Guy, which is really the same
Oh
actor
no.
but different.
Well, it's the same actor, but yeah, it's
Oh,
the
it's
$6 million
horrible.
man was a
No, no,
horrible show.
don't see Ryan Gosling. That was bad.
Right?
Anyway, bad movie. So to your point, what you're saying is, I think that's the risk, right? Because at the end of the day, if the companies are not able to recognize how to properly deploy AI and how to leverage it, especially with kind of focus on understanding their processes, what's really taking up their time, what's really taking up the value, because at the end of the day, it's the KPIs, it's the ability to say, yeah, you know what, this really generated profit for me, frankly. Let's talk about the bottom line here. If you're able to, let's say you have 200 employees, if you're able to save each employee 1 hour a week, 1 hour a week, then you're really saving probably 5 or 6 FTEs that you may want to hire, or you're able to actually respond more proactively to servicing your customers, because things are changing, and that's people are needed to get stuff done, right? So I'm sorry, Scott, I'm talking for you, and I get excited
That's
about
okay.
that.
No,
But
no, that's the
but
point of a podcast. All right. So my question to you, I decided to go off the reservation. To
that
go,
was in 1986, but it's a different
yeah,
discussion. But go
different
ahead.
discussion.
Okay.
That I decided to go off the technology path for this question.
Okay.
Okay. And we're gonna end the podcast with your answer. So people will get a chance to hear this, and then we'll do our we'll say goodbye, and that'll be it. So Henry, what movie star do you look like?
Oh my God. I look like that chef that goes bam. If you really, the guy I'm talking about, if you really
Um,
look at him, oh my God, I look exactly like him. It's kind of creepy. Next podcast I'll actually bring him up. I forgot his name. Um, but but when I was much, much younger, I kind of looked like a young Charlie Sheen, not from his lifestyle, just his look. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page there. But what
oh,
do you
I,
think?
I was gonna go lifestyle, not looks, but okay.
So who do you think I look like? I gotta find out.
Oh
Or
no, oh, it's not my that's not my question to answer. That's a
okay,
question for
so
you to answer.
Google that chef that goes bam, and
Yeah,
you
I
guys
will.
will see. Well, everybody, and then you will see me. I'll bring it up. It's really creepy. That's a good one. I like that, Scott. That's great. I like that. So thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for watching. This is our second episode, and it's going to get better and better and better. This was great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Henry.
Okay, bye, Scott.